My name is Arden, and I'm a 32-year-old fashion consultant living in sunny Los Angeles. Life here seems like a dream: gorgeous weather, beautiful beaches, and a social life that's always lively. My husband, Grayson, is a high-ranking software engineer, and together, we've built a life many would envy. We have a stylish home, filled with modern decor, and most weekends are packed with brunches and outings with friends. Everything seemed perfect, or at least that's what I thought. Things started to unravel when Grayson's younger sister, Romy, lost her job. She's 27, struggling to find stability, so when she asked to stay with us, I agreed. Family sticks together, right? I hoped that welcoming her would strengthen our bond. But little did I know, saying yes would lead to a nightmare. At first, it was fine having Romy around. We made her feel at home, and she joined in our routines. But then, strange things started happening. My favorite watch disappeared from the dresser one day. When I asked Romy, she just laughed and said, "Oops, I thought it was mine." I brushed it off as a silly mistake. But then other things went missing: a diamond ring, some of my makeup, and even a designer handbag. Each time I brought it up, she'd laugh it off, saying, "Oh, I didn't mean to take it." Grayson seemed to always defend her. "Romy's just having a hard time," he'd say, brushing off my concerns. The breaking point came when I noticed money missing from my personal lockbox. I kept it there for emergencies, and I was sure about how much was inside. But when $3,000 went missing, I panicked. I knew something was wrong. When I told Grayson, he shrugged it off. "Maybe you spent it without realizing," he suggested, not even looking up from his laptop. I felt completely alone, dismissed by my own husband. That's when I decided to take things into my own hands. I needed proof. I xandered a few bills with invisible ink and set up a hidden camera in my walk-in closet, where I kept my lockbox. I knew it was risky, but I needed to know the truth. Days went by, and I checked the footage daily, anxiously waiting. Then, on the fourth day, I saw it. There she was, Romy, going through my lockbox and taking the xandered bills. She even took one of my rings. Seeing her on camera was both a relief and a betrayal. Armed with the footage, I decided it was time to confront her. I found Romy in the living room, casually scrolling through her phone. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I know you've been taking money from my lockbox. I have proof." Her face twisted, and she denied it. But when I showed her the footage, she smirked. "Grayson will never believe you over me," she sneered. Her confidence shook me. I couldn't believe how manipulative she was, but I was determined to expose her. The next family gathering was a perfect chance. It was supposed to be a celebration for Grayson's recent promotion, and his whole family was there. I was anxious, rehearsing what I would say in my head. I knew it might cause a scene, but I had to speak up. As Grayson stood up to give his toast, I felt a surge of determination. When he mentioned his gratitude for Romy, I interrupted, saying, "I have something important to share." Grayson looked at me, surprised. "Arden, not now," he said, but I pressed on. "Romy has been stealing from me. I have proof." Gasps filled the room, and I could see the shock on everyone's faces. I pulled up the footage on my phone, showing Romy rummaging through my lockbox. Silence fell over the room as they watched. Romy tried to defend herself, accusing me of setting her up, but her confidence was fading. But just as I thought Grayson might finally understand, he turned on me. He looked furious. "You've humiliated her in front of everyone. How could you do this?" he shouted. Then, in a shocking moment, he slapped me across the face. The room fell silent as I stumbled back, stunned. I had never imagined he would go so far. My family-in-law looked on, shocked, while Romy stood there, smirking, clearly pleased with how things had turned out. Grayson's next words shattered me. "Get out of my house, Arden. I want a divorce." I was in disbelief. Tears welled up as I left, feeling like my whole world had crumbled. I had stood up for myself, but it seemed I had lost everything. That night, I stayed in a hotel, my heart broken, yet deep down, I knew I couldn't let this be the end. The next morning, I called my best friend, Everly. She'd been my rock since college, and I needed her support. Grayson hit me and said, "He wants a divorce," I sobbed. Everly, always the strong one, urged me to protect myself. Arden, you have to get a lawyer. Stand up for yourself, she said. Her words gave me strength. I met with a divorce attorney who specialized in cases involving emotional and physical abuse. Sitting in her office, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I realized I had to reclaim my life and my dignity. This was only the beginning, and I was ready to face whatever came next. And everyone's attention shifted to him. I felt my pulse quicken. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, a chance to bring the truth to light. Grayson cleared his throat, beaming with pride, and began his speech. Thank you all for being here, he started, his gaze moving from family member to family member. I couldn't have achieved this without each and every one of you, especially my sister, Romy, who's always supported me. The words stung, but I held my ground. Romy flashed a smile, basking in the attention. My grip tightened around my glass as I gathered the courage to speak. When Grayson finished and everyone raised their glasses, I stepped forward. Actually, I said, loud enough for the room to hear, there's something important I need to say. All eyes turned to me, curiosity flickering across their faces. Romy's smile faltered as she looked at me, a hint of defiance in her eyes. Grayson glanced at me, confused but supportive, as he whispered, Is everything okay? No, Grayson. It's not, I replied, my voice steady, but filled with emotion. I didn't want to bring this up in front of everyone, but I feel like I've been left with no choice. The room grew quiet as a heavy silence settled over us. Romy crossed her arms, her face a mask of feigned innocence. I know Romy has been taking money from my lockbox, I said, keeping my gaze fixed on her. I have proof, Grayson. I caught it on camera. Gasps rippled through the room, and I felt the weight of everyone's gaze. Grayson looked stunned, searching my face for any hint that this could be a misunderstanding. Romy's expression twisted into anger. Are you serious right now? She spat, her voice dripping with contempt. You're really going to ruin this family gathering with baseless accusations. I held my ground, refusing to let her intimidate me. It's not baseless, Romy. I wouldn't have brought it up if I wasn't absolutely sure. Grayson looked between us, torn. He took a step back, his face pale. Is this true, Romy? Romy's defiant stance crumbled just slightly, but she recovered quickly, shrugging as if it were no big deal. Grayson, she's being dramatic. She probably misplaced the money and wants someone to blame. But her words held no conviction. Grayson studied her, and I could see doubt starting to chip away at his trust. Show me the footage, he said finally, his voice tense. I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking as I navigated to the video. The family gathered closer, and I could feel their judgmental stares, but I held my chin high. As the video played, Romy's face shifted from anger to panic, and I knew I had her cornered. When it ended, Grayson looked devastated. He turned to Romy, his voice barely a whisper. Why? Why would you do this? Romy couldn't answer, her face flushed with embarrassment. The room was silent as Grayson turned back to me, regret and shame in his eyes. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I nodded, feeling a wave of relief mixed with sadness. The truth was out, but it had come at a cost. Romy stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her, and Grayson put his arm around me, holding me close. The gathering continued, though the mood was somber. I felt a sense of justice, but also a profound sadness. My relationship with Grayson had endured, but the trust within his family was shattered. I knew things would never be the same again. I could let this situation break me, or I could use it to build a new life for myself. The pain was raw, but I felt a glimmer of resilience stirring within me. I had spent too long being deceived, letting my voice go unheard. Now, I needed to find strength within myself. I picked up my phone and began to reach out to friends, people I'd drifted from during my relationship with Grayson. The support I received was overwhelming. Messages of encouragement and offers to help flooded in. Slowly, I started to realize I wasn't alone in this fight. There were people who cared about me and wanted to see me rise above this betrayal. Over the next few days, I focused on rebuilding my life. I found a temporary place to stay and started looking into lawyers. I knew I would have to confront Grayson again, but this time, I would be prepared. The thought of seeing him still brought a mix of hurt and anger, but my resolve was growing stronger with each passing day. The hardest part was the nights, when memories would flood back, and I'd replay the confrontation in my mind. The image of Grayson siding with Romy and that victorious smirk she wore felt like a knife twisting in my chest. But with each painful memory, I reminded myself that I deserved better, that I was more than the sum of this betrayal. As the days turned into weeks, I regained a sense of purpose. I wasn't just fighting for justice against Romy. I was fighting for myself, for my future, and for the chance to reclaim my happiness. I knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but I felt a newfound determination. I would rebuild my life, piece by piece, and come out of this stronger than ever. In the end, Romy's manipulation may have cost me my marriage, but it gave me something far more valuable. The realization that my strength came from within, and no one could take that from me. Each day brought a renewed sense of peace and clarity. I was thriving at work, focusing on my career and the friendships that had been a lifeline through everything. My promotion in fashion consulting not only validated my dedication, but reminded me of my own resilience. It felt empowering to pour my energy into something I loved, where I could truly shine. Everly, as always, was by my side, celebrating each victory and reminding me of the strength I had found. "I knew you could do this," she'd say with pride, and every time, it felt like another piece of me was healing. We spent weekends exploring the city, finding new cafes, laughing, and enjoying moments that reminded me of who I was before Grayson and Romy turned my life upside down. Eventually, Grayson and Romy's drama faded from my mind. Their struggles and fallout were no longer my concern, though I occasionally heard updates through mutual friends. Romy was still dealing with her legal issues, and Grayson had left his firm, unable to rebuild his reputation. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel some satisfaction. They were paying the price for their choices. But as time went on, I felt my focus shift inward, away from the pain they'd caused and toward the life I was building. One evening, I stood on my apartment balcony, watching the city lights. For the first time in a long while, I felt free. My heart was no longer weighed down by betrayal or resentment. Instead, I felt a lightness, a hope for what was to come. I had learned to stand up for myself, to walk away from those who didn't deserve my love and loyalty, and to build a life that reflected my values. I knew challenges would come, but I also knew I was stronger than I'd ever been. This journey had taught me that my happiness, self-respect, and independence were worth fighting for. As I took a deep breath of the cool evening air, I felt ready for whatever came next, no longer looking back but fully embracing the future that lay ahead. In the following weeks, I focused entirely on rebuilding both personally and professionally. With my divorce proceedings in full swing, each step I took brought me closer to creating a future that felt authentically mine. Although the legal battles stirred up anxiety, they also ignited a sense of hope, empowering me to face each challenge with renewed determination. One afternoon, my lawyer, Sloan, called with news that nearly took my breath away. "Arden, we've secured a settlement agreement with Grayson," she said. My heart raced as she continued, "You'll receive a fair share of the assets, and we'll ensure a restraining order is in place to prevent any unwanted contact." "Thank you, Sloan," I managed, my voice filled with gratitude. This victory symbolized my freedom, a monumental step in reclaiming control over my life. That evening, I decided to celebrate. I called Everly, inviting her over for a small housewarming party to Xander this new chapter. "We need to toast to your fresh start," she exclaimed. I spent the next few hours setting up snacks and arranging flowers, enjoying the serenity and joy that filled my apartment for the first time. When Everly arrived, she came bearing champagne. "To new beginnings," she toasted, raising her glass, "and to kicking toxic people out of your life." We laughed, sharing memories from college, reveling in a rare and genuine happiness. A few weeks later, during a morning walk with Lawson, the rescue dog I'd recently adopted, I bumped into an old acquaintance, Xander, from the fashion industry. "Arden, it's been ages. How have you been?" he asked, his warm smile easing me into the conversation. I'm doing well, actually, I replied, keeping it light. Just coming out of a rough patch. He nodded knowingly. I heard about Grayson and Romy. You've shown incredible strength, Arden. Thank you, Xander, I said, feeling a swell of pride. I'm finally learning to prioritize my happiness. We ended up grabbing coffee, and as we talked, I felt a connection I hadn't experienced in a long time. We exchanged numbers, and for the first time, I allowed myself to consider the possibility of new relationships, no longer held back by the weight of the past. One evening, an unexpected message from Grayson appeared on my phone. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I realize now how much I hurt you. I hope you find happiness. His words stirred old wounds, but I recognized he was finally acknowledging the pain he'd caused. I took a deep breath and responded with grace and clarity. Thank you, Grayson. I appreciate your message, but I need to focus on myself now. I wish you well, but I cannot go back. With that, I felt a profound weight lift. I was truly closing the door on the past. As I settled in for the night, Lawson curled beside me. I reflected on everything I'd been through. This journey had not only been about survival, it was about transformation. I'd learned the importance of self-respect, the power of standing up for myself, and the strength in embracing the unknown. Each day, I grew more resilient, ready to welcome whatever life had to offer. I'd faced betrayal, but through it, I had found a resilience I didn't know I possessed. Sometimes I realized losing everything is the first step toward finding yourself and building a brighter, more empowered future. As I drifted to sleep, a deep sense of peace filled me. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I was ready to face it. One step at a time, in the days that followed, I found myself settling into routines that brought a surprising sense of stability and comfort. Each morning, I took Lawson for a walk through the neighborhood, feeling the crisp air on my face, breathing in a newfound freedom. It was in these quiet moments that I felt most connected to myself, no longer bound by the roles I'd once tried to play for others. With every step, I was leaving behind pieces of my old life and, in their place, discovering something new within myself. At work, I poured my heart into my projects. My boss, who'd noticed my dedication, entrusted me with more responsibilities, which were both challenging and exhilarating. I thrived on the creativity and vision I was able to bring to my role, and with every completed project, I felt a deeper sense of accomplishment. I was proving to myself that I could stand strong, that I didn't need anyone else to define my worth. One evening, as I was winding down after a long day, my phone buzzed with a message from Xander. "Dinner this Friday? I'd love to catch up again," he wrote. I felt a flutter of excitement, a feeling I hadn't experienced in so long. After a moment of hesitation, I replied, "Sounds perfect. Looking forward to it." I felt a smile spread across my face. This wasn't just about a dinner date. It was about allowing myself to open up to new possibilities, to feel joy again without fear. Friday came quickly, and I spent extra time getting ready, choosing an outfit that made me feel confident. When I arrived at the restaurant, Xander was already there, waiting with a warm smile. Throughout the evening, our conversation flowed effortlessly. We talked about everything, our careers, dreams, the places we wanted to visit. With him, there was no pressure, no judgment, just a simple, genuine connection that I hadn't realized I missed. As the night ended, Xander walked me to my car. "I'm really glad we did this," he said softly, looking at me with a sincerity that felt refreshing. "Me too," I replied, feeling a warmth bloom in my chest. I realized then that I was finally letting go of the past. I didn't need to look back anymore. I was moving forward, step by step, toward a future I was building on my own terms. Over the next few months, my life continued to evolve in ways I'd never imagined. My relationship with Xander grew, slowly but surely, into something that felt real and nurturing. He respected my independence, admired my resilience, and never tried to overshadow my journey. It was a type of partnership I had only dreamed of before, one that complemented who I was without trying to redefine me. In moments of reflection, I'd think back to the pain I'd endured, the heartbreak, the betrayal, and the fears that once kept me awake at night. But now, they felt distant, almost like shadows from another life. I saw them not as scars, but as reminders of my strength and capacity for growth. Every tear, every sleepless night had led me here, to a place of self-assurance and quiet confidence. One afternoon, as I was cleaning out some old boxes, I stumbled upon a photo of Grayson and me. For a brief moment, I felt a pang of nostalgia. But it was fleeting, like a distant echo, and instead of sadness, I felt gratitude. That part of my life had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. I took the photo, placed it back in the box, and closed the lid, ready to leave it in the past. A year later, as I stood in my own boutique, a dream I'd finally realized, I marveled at how far I had come. Friends and family gathered around to celebrate, Everly by my side, beaming with pride. "I knew you'd do it," she whispered, giving me a tight hug. As I looked around at the people who supported me, I felt a surge of gratitude for each one of them, for helping me reclaim my life and rebuild a future that was all mine. Looking back, I realized that what I had once seen as the end was, in reality, the beginning. I had lost everything that no longer served me, only to discover a strength and purpose that were waiting just beneath the surface. My journey had taught me that sometimes the most painful chapters lead to the most beautiful transformations, and that happiness doesn't always come easy, but it is always worth fighting for.